Long ago I was an indie game developer and I really enjoyed working on my own game, trying to create my own experiences. And now today, like 7 years later, I want to get back to this feeling of creative and technical control. So yes, let's start and make a new game. So this game will be called Sunset Reveries. It will be a Western game, a cowboy game, an action game with also some narrative and choices to be made by the player. So the game will be quite easy to handle. I'll show you what I have in mind. So we will have a screen bordered by, black parts, because we are in a Western film or in a Western game. And in the middle of this, you will have the game. And in the game, it will be quite simple. You will have your own cowboy. So I will so this will be the hero. And you will have enemies coming from sides. So it could be like normal enemies, like other cowboys. It could be chariot trucks. It could be enemies on horses, etc. And they will come, and you will have to fight. You will have only one life, so you don't have to be touched. If you're touched by an enemy or by a projectile, you're dying. And you will have several weapons, and those weapons will all have a different way of hitting the enemies. So maybe you will shoot directly to the enemies. Maybe you will launch a grenade that will then do an explosion and hit several enemies. Maybe you will have, I don't know, a shotgun that will do like a kind of zone in which you will kill enemies, etc. And your cowboy, your hero, will be able to move. So you will have, I think, basic move, maybe a sliding move in order to dodge some projectiles, and I suppose also a jump. So that's it. Very simple game, and the variety of the game will come with the different weapons you will have and the different waves of enemies you will fight. So let's start making this game. By the way, I will use C++ as a developing language, or maybe here. For a start, I will use, in order to create a first prototype of my game, I will use the Raylib library. And maybe later I replace Raylib by my own engine. We'll see that later. First, I want to make a game and to make it work and see if it works. Oh, by the way, this game will be, I suppose, for desktop and mobile. Because with the gameplay I've presented you, I think we could have either a control-F game or also a mobile game with virtual buttons. So we'll see that later too. Desktop and mobile, and fine. I think that's all what I need to define. So let's start. I've already set up a small project using Raylib. This is just like bare code, the minimal code you need if you want to start with Raylib. So I have my main function. I have init window that will start a window. I may change this way of defining constants just after it. I set number of frames per second, and while the windows should not close, I will draw something. And here I will just draw a black screen. And then when the game is finished, I close the window. Okay, so let's start this. Okay, we have our black window. In order to compile the game, I want to show you everything I did in this game. I use CMake. So CMake is a way to compile C++ programs through different platforms. Here I'm working on Windows with a software, an IDE called C, but I could be also working on Linux or any kind of system. So I usually work with CMake because I like being able to switch from different OS and different computers. Okay, just I want to detail a little maybe to give you some detail. Oh, how is it to switch to view code? Okay, I can enter the presentation mode like this. Okay, it will be easier for you, I think. Okay, so those are the basics of CMake. When you start a project, you define the project name, you define which version of CMake you want to use. And here I define, this is to say, okay, I will use C++20. And this is required from Raylib. Then with those commands, what I do is basically downloading Raylib if I need it. Okay, so my project will automatically download Raylib from a certain version, which is here is 4.2. Then I enter in the real part of the compilation. I had a subdirectory, so this subdirectory will be the directory of my game. I'll show it to you just after that. I add an executable, so for now my executable is main.cpp in my sunset folder, but this may change too. And I target a library. Actually, the sunset folder will compile as a library called game. So I target this library. Then I give some options. So usually I tend to work with the, let's say, the most fine-grained type of option. When I work with C++, I try to respect everything I should respect while writing my C++ code. Usually it's a good idea because C++ can be a little tricky if you don't respect it enough. Okay, so this will compile my game. I add a command in order to, when I compile, copy the assets of my game into the compiled folder, the compilation folder. And those are also Raylib's option in order to compile for web or for OS 6. Okay, so I have to get back. This is not, I should create a shortcut, I think, for the presentation mode. So in my project, I have an asset project. For now, I have just an image, which will be a temporary background. I have my sunset folder, which contains the main part and which also contains a CMake file. In this CMake file, I tell CMake to use any CPP file it can find in this CMake, in this folder, sorry. I add the game library from those sources. Yeah, and then I say to include the directories. And to compile this game library, I also need Raylib, so I add it here. Okay, I think that's good for first presentation. Do I have shown you every kind of file? Oh yeah, last file, I have a gitignore file. So gitignore file is in order to use a tool called git that will help me version my project. I mean, being able to go forth and back in everything I do when I code the project, okay? So we're done with the presentation of the game and of my starting point. And I think in the next video we will refactor this a little in order to work with proper or object-oriented code. Okay, so see you in the next video. Bye.